Hello everybody, welcome once again to Nintendo Power Block. I am your host, ADV. Joining me is the wise Wisconsinite, Mr. Jesse Douglas.
Hey, how's it going, Ed?
Yes, once again, our boss man isn't here, but he has a reason. Yes, everybody, Corey Derrick is officially a father. Yay! Yes, him and his wife, the lovely Sana, they both had Raleigh a couple of days ago, so congratulations to them. He has shown us pictures of how the baby looked, him being a dad, and it's so awesome, and I'm just so proud of him, so happy. So he'll probably still be gone for a little bit, but he will be back, and when he comes back, he'll probably break down more stuff about fatherhood, getting used to it. But here on Power Block, we just love to talk about Nintendo. So, I have to get to my wise Wisconsinite, Mr. Jesse Douglas. What you been playing?
All right, so like I last week was kind of the opposite, where I played nothing but nothing but Switch, except for like Destiny. But this week I finally tried the Octopath Traveler demo, and I started it. I really didn't get too far because I had full intentions to sit down and play that for a while, but then I was like, I just had like things I had to do around the house and stuff. I'm just like, I want to play this, but I really should do this and do that, and so I didn't really get too far into it. I can't even remember for sure which person it was that I picked. It was one of the newer ones. It wasn't someone that was in that original demo. I want to say it was the one chick that's it was the mage, maybe? I don't know. I don't remember what her name is. I think it starts with an O or something. I can't remember. But I just started that, and it's like her and her sister are they're like in this religious thing where they're like protectors or something, and that's about as far as I really got. Like dude got sick and stuff like that. That's about it. And then I did play a little bit of Fortnite. Obviously, if I whenever I get a chance, I'll play that. And then I did pick up the Crash Insane trilogy for the Switch. So I've been playing that quite a bit. Just the first game. And
Did you like it?
Probably. I love it. I always loved the Crash games, and when I started playing it was just perfect. I didn't have any issues with it, and it's it was kind of hard. It's kind of hard to get everything in every level, but like if you just focus on doing what you're supposed to be doing in the level, it's not really too hard. I mean, there are some areas where it can get a little tricky, but it's like in like a lot of those games like Cuphead and stuff where you just got to remember the sequences and all that stuff, and then you're pretty good to go. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been playing on that.
I remember getting 100% on Crash 1 and Crash 2, and I never understood, was there supposed to be a secret ending, or you just got something? I just never understood that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just enjoy it. I don't know. I guess I think it was at the time too, like, like I was used to Mario and, like those kind of side scrolling platformers, and I just I enjoyed the like coming towards the screen on some things where like there's kind of you don't know what's coming up next kind of thing, and it just made it interesting at that time, like now a lot of things have done it, but I still feel like there really hasn't been any games that did it like Crash did, like as far as the like going all the different directions that, on screen and stuff like that. But I don't know. I guess it's possible there are games like it that I just haven't played, but I feel like no one's really tried to copy that.
You kind of have like the Spiral series in a sense for some of the levels. But I mean, I think around that time when they originally came out, Sony was trying to do something different with the platforming genre, because I know they weren't kind of known for the big platforming games. So they kind of had to figure out what they were going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm enjoying that. I'll probably be playing Crash. That will probably be my kind of game that I just pull out and play like a couple levels or so, and every once in a while type thing.
Well, it is 3 games, so good luck.
Yeah. That's the thing is I know I've played all of them, but I don't know if I've played. I don't remember the last time I played the second one. I don't think I really got a chance to play that one too much, because I owned some of them, but then at that time, I didn't have a lot of money, so I'd be selling stuff a lot of the times to try to get money for other stuff.
Yeah.
During that time. So, there was a lot of games that I liked, and unfortunately, but I had to get rid of them just if I wanted to get something else type thing.
Yeah.
So, there's some of those games that I didn't really play as much, and then now, it seems like it was kind of hard to find them later, and some of them could get a little pricey, so that's why I haven't really owned them. And then once there was talk of the trilogy thing coming out, even though it was only coming out for PlayStation at first, I'm like, instead of wasting money, I'll just wait until that comes everywhere else, if it does, so.
The only reason why that game make money, it was because of the UK.
Yeah. Well, they're at least for me, everyone that I knew that had a PS2 or the PS1, was they Crash. My cousins had, I think, at least 1 or 2 of them. Me and my sister used to play it religiously.
Well, I'm talking about the remake. The remake itself, it's so bigger in UK than it's so here in America and anywhere else.
Yeah.
But Crash, I was a big fan of Crash. I enjoyed their games. I actually beat 2 before I beat 1. But I beat them 100% of them and then gave them back to my cousin because it was for his memory card. It was his memory card I was working on and not mine.
Yeah. Thank God we don't have to deal with that anymore, those stupid memory card crap. I mean, we still technically do, but I mean, now it's at least you can save full games on it. It's not quite the same, right. I felt like even at some point, at some point, with was it the PSP or whatever that had its own memory card, or they just used a weird format of memory card or something, and then they made it super expensive to have a thing for it. All that stuff.
So, anything else you've been playing?
Yeah, I mean for Xbox, because I guess technically I've played more games on Switch, but I've played for longer periods of time on Xbox. Yeah, Destiny 2 sucked me back in pretty much, so I've been playing that any chance I get.
We'll talk about that on AX.
Yeah, and then Call of Duty World War II is I can talk about that on AX too, but they added something like a cool feature, or like in that game they have these band, like an armband it would be, and each armband has its own like abilities, like that allow you certain abilities. Like there's one armband that you can get that lets you add up all your kills towards your kill streaks, but you can only get them once. So like you can die, but if you still get all of your kills amounts that you would need to unlock it, you still get it, but you can't get it multiple times. You can only get it the one time. So there's just like certain perk things like that you can use, and they added a new one. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And so I've been playing that because it's a really fun armband. It makes the game so much more interesting.
All right. Well, I've pretty much been playing Octopath Traveler for Nintendo Switch. Picked it. The adventure to get in that game was a mess. So yeah. I went to Target at 9:46 in the morning. There is no way that Nintendo is going to send them the game that's supposed to be released out on Friday on top of Captain Toad and Octopath Traveler was in their ad.
Yeah.
To say that available Friday. So the guy said that, well, we just got a truck in. I was just like, Nintendo wouldn't send you the games the day the day of release when y'all open. Y'all open at 8 a.m. It's 9:46, and the person in electronics didn't know where the game was at. Let me phrase that. He didn't know where Octopath or Captain Toad was at. And this continues to happen at Target. This happened with me with God of War. This happened with me with State of Decay 2. And it's just like, why is it on the day that these games are released, none of you guys at the store are prepared? Now, Hyrule Warrior came out, and that sold out. But the other games that came out, it's just now nobody can't find. So I had to go all the way to GameStop. Luckily the cashier had it in the back of him. So I bought one for him, and then I sent it to Captain Toad. I'm like, let me just buy that too. So I spent the $100 getting that game. But it's just like, come on, Target. You guys got to get better with your game releases. So
yeah, I haven't had. I guess I don't go too often for like release date to buy it, but I've usually had pretty good experiences at my Target, and that's the thing, is it probably depends on the area too. Like the people that they have working in that area don't care about any of that stuff, then they probably it could get to the point of where they just don't care, and they're not really.
But you have an ad out that comes out every Sunday. So your stuff should be ready to go. For release. Because I when I tours, I did it for the movies and I did it for the games. I was already set, had everything packed, ready to go. The day they released, they were out on the shelves and I was ready to sell them.
Yeah, that's the thing is, usually most places will there's people that obviously when the store closes, that doesn't mean that everyone just leaves, or whatever. And so a lot of the times, most places, those people before they finish their shift will put stuff like that on the shelves right away that night, ready for the release morning. Right. And yeah, that's pretty weird that they didn't do it. So So, but like he said though, did they just have it? Did they just get shipped that day?
No, it was in their system saying that they had 4 each of the games, but you don't know where it's at.
And yeah, what's up with that, man? There's something wrong with your Target if they're only getting 4 copies of each of those.
Well, normally with Nintendo games, stores only get 2 copies.
What?
Yeah.
Not here. Like we get like the
it's normally sometimes with Nintendo, depending on what kind of game it is. If it's a big game, they'll send like a box of 10 or 20.
Yeah.
But sometimes they'll mix it in with other games and they'll send like 2 to 4 copies. But Octopath Traveler, I don't know why it didn't get enough copies, but they only got sent 4, and they're probably gonna get like another shipment more. But it was just weird that it's in their system for them to go get it. Yet I just don't understand like why they can't get this together, because it never happens with any other game. They just don't put it out, and I don't know who's doing their stocking or their electronics. Just like you guys should have recognizable boxes showing what games are coming out. You guys should have shelves that saying, "Hey, this needs to be released and put out on this day at this time." Like, there should be there. There's no way that after an hour and 46 minutes, and sometimes I don't even go to Target at 8 o'clock. I'll wait till 9 to make sure that it's out. And still, when I get there, I'm the one that's reminded them, yeah, this game came out. They were just like, it did? I'm like, it's in your ad. Did you, like, not prepare for this?
Yeah.
Like, and then just might be me. But back to Octopath Traveler. Sorry, everybody, about that rant. Back to Octopath Traveler. Got like, I think I'm like 14 hours in, and loving that game. Like I'm still doing the first chapters for a lot of the members. I have 4 of them. I started off with Alberic. He's like a warrior. And then I collected like some other ones. And what's cool is everybody's first name, the first letter of their name makes the word Octopath.
Oh, okay. So that's what I was wondering. Because I was thinking about that the other day, and I didn't really check to see, but I was noticing like all the different names, like that there's 2 different people with the O name, and like I kind of thought something was like that, and that's why it has such a weird title.
Well, I mean, I think it's a cool title and everything.
Well, yeah,
I just didn't realize
like
that the names played the part like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like the name too. I just like what is an Octopath? Like, I mean.
Yeah. So I have Cut the Toad still wrapped up, but didn't start that yet. But I've pretty much been playing Octopath Traveler, so that's pretty much what I've been playing. I did play some stuff on Xbox, but I'll talk about that on Arsenal X, everybody. So, but we're going to get into some news bits, and dude, this 2 of the news things kind of like puzzled me in a sense. But I'm going to get into the first one, and it seems that no, 1 second. What? Okay, there we go. Oh, well, wait. We'll get into this one, and I'll get back to the other one. There we go. Nintendo of America's Doug Bowser says Switch has broad appeal in a diverse library of games. And all of these stories for Power Block is coming from Nintendo Life, so you guys can check that out. Nintendo's representative at this year's E3 made a variety of statements about the current performance of the Switch. During an interview with Game Daily at the annual video game convention, Nintendo of America's head of sales and marketing, Doug Bowser, defended the system when asked about its ability to appeal to a broader audience and maintain momentum over the long term. He states, It's been broad. It really has. You know, we like to say that we want to appeal to players from 5 to 95, but as we look at the Switch, it's been really balanced. Obviously, when you have a game like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or some of the more core content or mature content, that's going to skew a bit older. But we're also seeing games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe appealing to a very broad segment. We saw it with Kirby Star Allies, which actually saw a younger segment coming in and playing. He used one of Nintendo's more modern IP to reiterate the company's connection with a broad audience. Splatoon 2 is a great one that we have found is skewing much younger, and so our goal is, first of all, to have a gaming device that is going to appeal to a broad audience, and we believe that we really are kind of transforming how people think about play. It doesn't have to be a console experience or a handheld experience. It could be both, and that's really what we're continuing to stress. Sorry about that. Doug also emphasized how all demographics were currently covered by the vast library of games on the system. The breadth of games that we're showing right now help us address those different demographics. We're up to now 700 titles in the first 15 months of release, and we just added an important one two days ago with Fortnite. And players already downloaded 2 million of them. Obviously, it's the online phenomenon right now. So, but Jesse, did you think that Switch has a broad appeal with the vast amount of titles?
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I think I've always felt like, as far as in the game department, anyways, that even though like their games, Mario games, whether it be Mario Party or Mario Golf or whatever, like though they can be played by kids or whatever, they've always done a good job of their characters kind of appealing to everyone, and like you don't have to be a kid to enjoy like Captain Toad. You don't have to be a kid to enjoy the Mario Party games. Like I feel like not like them making a Mario Party game, like we got that announcement during E3 that there was going to be a new Mario Party game, and I think they like right now, like in the time that we're in, like couldn't have been a better time for something like that to come out. Because I feel like board games and stuff like that are making a big comeback. Like you hear about people like talking about playing board games and stuff like all the time now, like tabletop games. Like you have that whole YouTube channel with what's his name, where they just play board games and record it, and to let people kind of see how those games are played if they want to buy them. I mean, like it just seems like that stuff has made such a big comeback, and like so many people are making new ones like every day, and so like it's stuff like that. Like that's how I look at Nintendo, is very much like board games where like they can have adult content in some of those board games, or they can be for everyone. There's kind of like like this year, this time around, they've kind of, Nintendo's been bringing the Resident Evils and the more adult games to their system now, like Doom and stuff like that. So there's no reason for any age to say there's nothing for them on the Switch, this time around. So,
and a lot of adults who say that the system don't really have major games to play and stuff, it's the adults who are playing Splatoon and ARMS and Hollow Knight and like showing stuff off and cool things. And kids are playing it, but you don't really see or hear a lot of kids talk about it, but they know it's on the platform. You know that they're playing it. Like you have parents or you have adults upset because of how Mario Tennis Aces is playing. Like people are playing it like it's a fighting game, and they're upset about that. I mean, so there is broad appeal to the Switch. It just depends on how the player goes about it. Like, there is no kid, I can't see no 7 or 8-year-old kid being able to master Hollow Knight.
Yeah. Yeah, and something like that, obviously they'd be able to play it, but yeah, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna teach them like a crash course
Right.
of how to play platformers, but yeah, like there's something else too I was gonna mention. Oh, when you know, like we were just talking about people like saying that there's not a lot of games on the Switch.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times though, the people that say that are a lot of those people that don't look at indie games as being real games.
Right.
Like unfortunately there's still a lot of people who just ignore indie stuff altogether because they just think like indie right away means that it's just not going to be good, and so they don't even give it a chance.
And
like
they're so focused on the other systems and even on PC that if it's not a big third party title, that if it's not on that system, they don't really look forward to playing that. But I'm just like, there's not even enough third party games that's out there that some of the people who are saying this would go and play. You know, you can say PlayStation and Xbox got a whole bunch of third party stuff, but I'm just like, I bet you your library is limited to probably to 10 or 15 games that you will probably consider as games compared to the indie stuff that's on all three platforms.
Yeah. Well, and Nintendo's like been having, like, I think, like, ultimately, I think Nintendo has probably been a big push for a lot of these indie games because, like, those, smaller games, like, are usually something that you would play on, like, your 2DS or your 3DS or whatever. And now, a lot of those people are producing games for the Switch instead.
And those indie games been
portable.
Right, and those indie games been helping those developers stay in business.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's the thing is like ultimately indie games are where you get like your true diversity in gaming. Yeah. I feel like and like for the people that don't give indie games a try, they're really missing out on a lot of good like story experiences and things like that. Well, like, is it Amy Hennig or whatever?
Yeah.
She's going to her own indie studio. So like for all those people that that played those big titles that she wrote those stories for, and like they're gonna be missing out now on what she's got to say or what she's gonna make. Because.
And that's for a lot of people who leave big companies. They end up going indie or even double A, and it's just like you now we're at a point that you can't say that indie games are not the new triple A, because in a sense they are. And I kind of separate that as indies can be triple A if they're under a publisher. If they're not under a publisher and they're doing all their work, they're indie games.
Yeah.
Like, and I could say, like, people who publish under, like, Limited Run Games or Nicholas or XC or stuff like that, it's just like they started off indie, but this publisher is producing their work. So now that physical that indie game, that once it turns into a physical version, it's kind of like a triple A, double A kind of game, but if the developer had been doing all the work, then, it's still an indie game. I think once a publisher gets involved and starts doing business with them, I start seeing it as a double A, triple A studio or game.
Yeah. So. And the nice thing too about having indie games is like like maybe the experience isn't no like 30-40 hour game or whatever, like some of the bigger games can be, but you're also only usually paying like $20-30 for a really, big indie game usually. So
Yes.
it's like people are just missing out. Like there, like even it had its issues, and I still need to listen to it. But like you just recently talked about Rhyme on your optional opinion, and like that, like it had little issues, but like the story and everything else about it was just so good that it just kind of made you forget about the little issues that it had. And unfortunately, like it sounds like it's a little bit worse to play on the Switch, but I don't know if they've changed that since then. I don't know.
It got patched. Some of the bugs and stuff got fixed. They did a big patch, but it's kind of like if you still want to experience the game a little bit better, then you could play the Xbox One version or the PS4 or PC. I played it on PS4, and once I played it, I'm just like, okay, I'm good. So, but we're gonna move on. To our second story. Splatoon 2 player hacks in-game leaderboard to send Nintendo a message. This one is so funny. Splatoon 2 has, unfortunately, been subjected to a number of hacking attempts over the past few months, with many players reporting stories of cheating taking place online. Fans of the game have been using social media to share stories of others using unlimited ink cheats, rapid ink fire cheats, players who were using the Octolink characters before they were officially released, and much more. But one fan in particular has finally had enough. In an attempt to get Nintendo to notice the issues and take action, one player used Splatoon 2's very own in-game leaderboards to display a very clear message, using their profile to sit at the top of each competitive mode's board and changing their in-game name around each time. The message, "Please add anti-cheat," was eventually displayed in the game's leaderboards. I hereby claim, ironically, the user had to use questionable methods to achieve this, editing their X power in an unlawful way. The user eventually took to Reddit under the name "Please Add Anti-Cheat" to explain their actions. I hereby claim responsibility for the recent incident on the Rank X leaderboard. Splatoon 2 is a game that I love so very deeply. Despite having its connectivity issues, I think it provides a healthy and competitive environment for all players. It advocates strategy and a strong sense of off-team work. It is because of this, everyone enjoys Splatoon and enjoys the fun of fighting for a rank or a league position. However, this will not be true as long as there are cheaters lurking around. Nintendo, you're welcome to ban my console anytime. My purpose was to call attention to the current issue that plagues the game, and I've done that. But my message is, please make protecting your players the top priority. Please add anti-cheat. Soon after all of this took place, Nintendo removed all 4 of the players' score entries from the leaderboard, presumably for cheating to get there. There's a somewhat comical amount of irony going on from all parties here, but at least this confirms that Nintendo has indeed seen the well-intentioned message. So, he hacked the game to say, get these hackers out our games. Stop, get people who are anti-cheating. And this happens to a lot of online-only games, in a sense, or team-based games, is that no matter what you do, there is always going to be someone to cheat. There's people who just don't want to play fair because their skill level is not high enough for them to get on the leaderboard fairly.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have cheaters, and these companies are doing their very best to get them off.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like when Nintendo made the Switch, there's a lot of vulnerable things inside the system. Like, doesn't have many things to stop that or make it hard for that to happen. So unfortunately, like, if they're gonna want to make it, make it a lot harder for people to do that kind of stuff with really any game, they're gonna have to make new hardware.
When any company gets when any player gets some kind of new hardware, their first thing is, for some people, how can I hack this? How can I exploit the problems that's in this system? And try to create programs to get the system hacked. And it doesn't matter how hard a lot of these companies try. Players or certain people are computer smart enough to just do stuff illegally, to exploit stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a way, but unfortunately, like the PSP, like the Switch is basically like exactly like the PSP, where you could, like, it doesn't take much to mod it. Like, even just with little programs, you can just download and basically be running like NES games and emulators on it and stuff like that, it sounds like. So.
But that's if you know what you're doing. If you just look it up and download it and it messes up your system, then you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but Nintendo has been good, though. You know, people who have hacked it and using a program, Nintendo has just like banned them and just be like, okay, we see that your system is not connected to ours and you're trying to upload it or you're trying to get something, banned. We won't even let you connect. Like, and they've been good about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's kind of like the perfect game for people to be doing something like that on, because you know very well that that's such a big game that they're gonna pay more attention if something happens on that,
right?
Versus like some of the smaller ones.
And this is more like we talked in the last story, that this is more adults than kids. You know, what is the purpose of you cheating? To show that you're a better player, you have to cheat. So you're not good. We already know your skill level is not there. So if you can't show true skill and play a game the right way, the right and fair way, you're not a skilled player. Not saying that you're not a player. You're not a skilled player.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I wonder too if the original, like when the first person decided to lock like unlockable things and stuff like that behind like these supply drops and things like that, if they didn't somewhere have an intention to do that, of thinking like, well, if we make it so like they can't just get the stuff playing it in game, there's going to be less reason for people to want to try to, cheat and hack the game to try to get those numbers up quicker so they can unlock things faster. But I kind of doubt that they probably had that much foresight when they were thinking about doing stuff like that. But I mean, unfortunately, technically, like if you weren't able to unlock stuff in game, that would only be part of the issue. But I mean, and I'm not saying that ever should happen where we, go completely to something that everyone hates. But I mean, if the only reason people are hacking mostly is just to get into leaderboards and stuff like that, obviously would still be, but I don't know. I've wondered like what was the motivation behind doing all these supply drops, and a lot of times these people just making it where playing the game doesn't do much of anything, because I mean it just kind of takes away from it, the whole reason you get the game. So
and I think that's why like PC players have a hard time enjoying online gaming like that, because it's easier to hack stuff on than it is on console.
Yeah, for sure. That's not something that I don't miss at all. Is the cheating on PC.
Amen. So we're going to get into our next story. Nintendo hid a fully working NES emulator inside Animal Crossing on GameCube. I find this amazing. If you played the original Animal Crossing on GameCube, which I did, You'll likely have fond memories of its ability to play certain NES games through earning in-game items for your home. By nabbing special gifts from villagers, finding them hidden on the island, or via special giveaways from Nintendo's website, players could find games that could be played on their in-game NES console. As it turns out, this console was actually a fully functioning emulator capable of much, much more. Security researcher James Chambers has discovered that the NES emulator in the game can actually be used to play any NES ROM stored on the GameCube memory card, not just the ones present inside Animal Crossing itself. Chambers has found that loading up the in-game NES causes the game to search for any compatible NES ROM files with functions such as Famicom_get_disk system_titles and memcard_game_list. From there, he was eventually able to work out the specific file format needed to allow the game to recognize NES ROM files stored on a memory card, and after a bit of emulation registry and debugging, managed to load Mega Man, Pinball, and Battletoads onto the system through Animal Crossing. If you're interested in how this all worked in more detail, we encourage you to take a read through Chambers' full report, although it's a very tech-focused read. So, I didn't know that. But I love Animal Crossing on GameCube. I actually traded in some games to get Animal Crossing. That was my first and only trade in to get that game. But I was at GameStop at 10 o'clock in the morning at the mall after I got paid buying that game with my trade-ins.
Yeah, I believe I had gotten it for GameCube as well. Cause I was kind of still, somewhat liked the sim games and stuff like that at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I did end up getting the one for, wasn't there one for 2D or 3DS or something?
Yeah, there was some for 3DS.
Yeah, it was either that one. One came out for the Wii as well, didn't it? Or was that just the GameCube one, maybe?
No, there was.
I don't know.
There was one that came out for the Wii.
Okay, yeah, because I think I got one for the GameCube and one for the Wii, and then I think I may have gotten the one for 3DS when it came out, but I didn't end up really playing it. So I don't know. Yeah, those games are pretty fun, but yeah, I don't think I got far enough into the GameCube one to even realize that there was an emulator in the game. I didn't.
I knew there was NES games that you could buy and kind of I think do something with the Game Boy Advance. I knew there was something like that, but to actually have an emulator in that mug to be, to play NES games on the GameCube with the GameCube controller.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yes. So, but we're going to get into our next story. David Ex Machina producer believes a lot of modern games look the same, and I have to agree with them on this.
Yeah, me too.
The annual video game convention E3 is commonly associated with dark, gritty, and seemingly cutting-edge reveals. While as many of these titles do in fact go on to be huge successes, the producer of Daemon X Machina, Kenshiro Tsukuda, is of the belief there's nothing particularly distinctive from a visual standpoint about a lot of game releases nowadays. Speaking to Kotaku at this year's show, Kenichiro Tsukuda was happy to divulge what he thought, while at the same time hoping players would appreciate Marvelous Entertainment's title for its colorful palette and stylish design. And this is what he says. These days, a lot of games are starting to look a little similar, but we would be delighted if users appreciate something that stands out and looks a little different. Outside of 2019's release, Tsukuda didn't publicize much else beyond the basics in regards to the Switch-bound exclusive. When prompted, he did admit the game's uniqueness was inspired by team members' previous work on titles such as Monster Hunter Stories for the 3DS, and more evidently his own history with the Armored Core series. Developing a game about mechs also appears to have Sukuda's questioning technology. He states, "So I have this phone, but I'm a little scared of whether I'm using it or it's using me. Are we using machines or are we being used by them? Do you think the Japanese producer has lost a bit of his sanity 1 year into the development cycle of Daemon X Machina, or does he raise some fair points about the visual similarities present within video games?" And I'm going to kind of connect this, even though this is not part of this show, with the story about a lot of developers and publishers can't make anything new because, and stuff gotta look the same and kind of, play the same. It's because if they try something different, they could lose a lot of money. So they have to use stuff that's kind of safe. I think the one guy from Sony said this. So that's why a lot of games are looking the same and playing the same, and like kind of the same assets being used, and there's no new ideas coming from.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it makes sense because, like, behind the curtain that like if you want a new game from someone, it usually takes like 4 years to make. But if they were to completely start from scratch, it could take closer to 8, or 6 years to make. Like how long did Zelda end up? Wasn't it like 10 years almost or something that they had been working on the Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild was about maybe 7 years.
Okay.
Because they did a prototype first.
Yeah.
So they hacked, or they kind of took the first game of Legend of Zelda and kind of hacked it and tried to get things working. And then when they started doing designs for Breath of the Wild, they started using the engine, like creating a new engine or using Unreal, Havoc, but they started messing around with physics. So they had to kind of create, if you do this, this happens, or if you do this, this happens. Like they were using it and they was almost ready to go with the game, but when Iwata said that the game is coming to Switch, or there was plans for it to come to Switch before he passed away, they had to delay the game, and that gave them extra time to add stuff to it while still trying to port it to Switch.
Yeah. So like obviously, but that's the thing, and why I've said, and I'm not trying to attack them or anything, but just my personal feeling with Sony is a lot of their games, they're different in their own ways, but they similar looks to them, where the joke has always been I didn't expect a dark, realistic game to be coming out for PlayStation, because that's basically all their games are kind of dark feeling, and they, try to go for the realism, and that's every game, it's dark realism, dark, and it's you're gonna get more games that way because it doesn't take them as long to produce them.
And I'm at Microsoft does the same thing. Microsoft is guilty of this. I think what he's kind of saying is that, of course, you get that dark and gritty realism in look. And me and Corey has always talked about why Nintendo does different art styles. That's why Machina X Daemon, or Daemon X Machina looks different. It's because it's a style, it kind of has a cel shaded No More Heroes kind of look to it, but not a lot of games use that style. So with Nintendo and other companies who produce titles for Nintendo, they're able to manage different art styles. And those art styles can produce different ideas. Sony and Microsoft is trying to go to a certain player. So when they're going to certain players, they're stuck in the art style. They're stuck in the look and feel to them. So they can't get out of things being distinctive. You know, Microsoft tried with Super Lucky's Tale, but when are we going to see 343 Industry Studios do something cell shaded? When are we going to see you know, now they got Ninja Theory, can they do something like Yoshi's Woolly World, you know, arts and crafts? Like, can the companies that Sony and Microsoft have as first party be able to dive into different art styles? Not everything has to just have a different color palette to it, but the art style itself needs to be different. And because their stuff is not different, they're stuck attracting to certain players. And yes, it does sell. We'll give them that. But everything starts feeling the same. And even for some of the third party, they start feeling the same because none of them can risk of getting out a different art style. And I think if third party was able to get out games that were smaller with different art styles and probably put them on Nintendo Switch and Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I think those games could still keep them in business. I think that would not only like surprise gamers, but probably attract new gamers to that platform.
Yeah. Well, but the only thing is though, like with Xbox though, I would say that like all their first party games, like none of them look like they may not have like cell shading or anything, but I mean like ultimately each game is completely different from the other one. Like you know, like I think the main problem with Microsoft is they just don't have a lot of, like, now they've got a couple more studios that can kind of do other stuff, but like they've kind of unfortunately been stuck in a position where they had so little, you know, like they didn't have many companies to make games for them. That it's like, well, do we like literally only release one game this year and make all those people do something different and then end up not getting a new game for another, 6 years?
Right.
So they've just unfortunately they've been stuck in a position where they can't make any changes because those changes would take too long to produce a new game, and so now they're kind of lucky with having this new company that, these new companies that they're picking up, that they can kind of start their path for next generation to hopefully have more experiences and different things. So I mean, because they don't, ultimately, I mean, you've got Halo and stuff, but they, that's the one thing, like the one thing that Sony does a lot of, like the dark, gritty realism games, they like play. Xbox doesn't really have a developer that tries to make those kind of games. So, like, and there was talk about that new one doing like their version of the Horizon Zero Dawn, which would change that. But yeah, I mean, like, like in this situation, Nintendo is like definitely got the upper hand over both of them because I feel like they've got so many like developers that are willing to make exclusive games for them, even like, like Octopath Traveler. They've got, big hitters like that are willing to make exclusive games for them.
And and even with the exclusive, they don't cost as much as other developers' games do.
Yeah.
Other developers on Sony and Microsoft, they choose to spend that much money and think that they're going to get a big investment. If someone could make a game on Switch for like $35 million and the sales surpass their development costs, those games are going to continue, or that style of games are going to continue to come to that platform, and hopefully keep them afloat so that those games can come to other platforms. Because if you look at Square Enix, and we're going to get into the last topic before we get to the end part of the show. If you look at Square Enix, they sold a lot of Final Fantasy 13, but a lot of that was in the bargain bin in Japan, the week after it came out. Dragon Quest IX is kind of holding them up. And, when they had Final Fantasy 14, the original one, they had to take that whole game down and redo it. That is a lot of money. But then they pulled out Bravely Default. That game sold tons.
Yeah.
And and out of everything that Square Enix was struggling with, that was the only game that they really could say that put them in the black, and was surprised that it put them in the black. Was like, well, of course, you made a game that people wanted to play. You made something new. You made something creative with this art style. And people on Nintendo's platform supported it. When you think that you're gonna sell big on the other two platforms, and you probably will, but you're making it for two platforms, so those two platforms will have to double or triple the sales to make up the development costs. Here is a game on 3DS that you sell for $40, and it's outdoing most of your big AAA catalog. That's crazy. That even happened with Capcom. Look how how Monster Hunter has been keeping Capcom afloat after Resident Evil 6 tanked. It sold 1 million, but that game tanked really. Nobody didn't really like it. Then they had Outbreak and all that other stuff, and those games tanked. Here they are putting a niche game as like Monster Hunter on 3DS. And not only did the system sell, the Monster Hunter 4 system sell, you had new players buying Monster Hunter 4. People who had never had no interest in that game bought it. So no wonder you was able to sell tons of this game on PS4 and Xbox One and soon to be PC. It was all because of Nintendo system that you put this on. These little games that these companies put on the Nintendo platform kept a lot of them afloat. Definitely in the PS3 days, and 360 days, kept that developer afloat. When, like I said, when they came out on the other systems, if they didn't sell a certain amount, that developer was closed.
Yeah. Even you look at things like Shovel Knight and stuff, where they basically started on Nintendo. And PC. And people played that stuff a lot on their DSs and stuff like that, and then eventually that made them enough money and stuff that they were able to eventually redo everything and go out to more, make more add-ons to the games and be everywhere. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is is kind of going back to what we were talking about with indie games last, where those games may start out small, but if you give them a try and you give them a shot, you never know what it's going to turn into,
Right.
So.
Which leads us to our actual last story for the show. Switch isn't the right place for Yakuza, says series producer. And he states Yakuza 1 and 2 for Wii U was a significant failure. Sega's critically acclaimed Yakuza series, or Yakuza series, has always been associated with Sony consoles, but Nintendo fans got a glimpse of what makes this franchise tick when the first and second games hit Wii U in Japan. Sadly, sales weren't great, but Sega's Toshihiro Nagoshi said the release was an experiment. Given that the Wii U was something of a flop and its successor, the Switch, is doing so much better, you might assume that Sega will be willing to take another chance and bring the shadowy underworld of Japan to the hybrid system. But according to series producer Daisuke Sato, that's not looking likely. Speaking to French site Gameblog, Sato said, to be realistic towards what happened, Yakuza 1 and 2 for Wii U was a significant failure, but our goal is still to develop cross-platform as much as possible, and we know that it brings an extra audience, that it allows us to attract more people. That being said, when it comes to Switch, I am convinced that it would not be the ideal platform on which to develop Yakuza or Yakuza games. Maybe the public is not expecting that kind of game on Switch. They may be used to different games. It may not be the ideal platform. Regarding Xbox One, we could consider it, knowing that Xbox One users might be more likely to be interested in a game like Yakuza. That could be an option. And this is the problem with this whole thing. The Yakuza or the Yakuza games, I'm going to go with the Yakuza. The Yakuza games have been sold around the world only on PlayStation.
Yeah.
You only brought that game to Japan. And everybody in America who found out that this game was coming to Japan finally thought that it would come to America so that they could buy it. Because Yakuza 1 and 2 didn't really do that well on PlayStation 2. If that game would have came to Wii U here and in Europe, it would have did much better. Because you had Americans who wanted to play the game. Yakuza didn't sell well in Japan. Yakuza didn't sell well in Japan because you only put it on that one platform. Every time they have brought the Yakuza games out, they are never in Japan first compared to America. They have never been on the sales chart as number one. They have always shared big sales around the world internationally. So if they would have bought 1 or 2 over here to America for Wii U, that game would have sold.
Yeah, because I mean the whole theory is if you want people to be interested in your games, you've got to make it accessible. And if you're not making something accessible, then of course it's not going to do well because people like I could guarantee you if they did something like they did for Octopath Traveler and they had like a decent playable demo for the game to get people interested in it and kind of learn what it's about for the people who may not know what exactly, a Yakuza game is. Like I guarantee that it would do well, but it's
Dude,
I don't know.
Wolfenstein is on Switch and they did super well. Like these mature games are selling well on Switch. What he doesn't realize is that he's using an old system to bring reason why they won't bring it to the new system. But here they are. Yeah. I'm like, but you are willing to bet all your funds on Sega Racing or any Sonic game on Nintendo's platform because it's so.
Yeah.
But you
they've been weird like that. It seems like lately, to use numbers of what they think they're gonna sell. Like Wii U should be nowhere in that conversation, or because the Switch has already outsold it. So like it's just not.
But it's one of those problems that if you put a game now, like I always said, if you put a game only on one system, it's not going to sell exponential numbers. It's just not. Grand Theft Auto 5 would not sell the numbers it sold if it only stuck to Xbox 360. If that game never came to PS3, PS4, Xbox One, or PC, no way they would make $1 billion in sales.
Yeah. Well, and like, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. Like, why,
Right. And the only reason why Yakuza have many sales is because they put it on one platform, but around the world, Europe, America, and Japan. So all of those numbers internationally grouping together will make that game successful. You put Yakuza 1 and 2 on a collection for Japan only. And
well, I was gonna say, and one thing too is like, you know, like they just need to be like a little bit more, you know, like when they're making games for the other systems, if they think that like it's not gonna sell really well, then they just got to make sure that they don't overproduce. You know, like nowadays, you know, like the people reserving copies type stuff, like, you know, like that. They need to just work on doing stuff like that a little bit more for these systems.
Jesse, Wolfenstein 2 is getting more recognition on Switch than it did on PS4, Xbox One.
Yeah.
There's no way a game that comes out a year later is getting more recognition and people are putting it on Twitter and showing more views of that game on Switch when this game came out on two powerful systems. People did the same thing on Doom. So it's not like, oh, because this game was a failure on an older platform, it's not going to work on this new platform. Tell that to the people who are hashtagging stuff. Get this game to 1 million. Keep looking at Twitter and social media that people are talking games that come to the Switch are doing exceptional in numbers. That people are spending $60 to get this game. There's no way Yakuza 0, Yakuza 6 would only have did the numbers that it did in Japan only. You had to put the Yakuza series in America. And get this, there's some Yakuza games Yakuza games that's in Japan that hasn't even came to America, and they still didn't get the numbers that's on PS4.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, well, it's a failure in this system. You only released it in one country.
Yeah. Well, and what we've found is that Japan is just really weird with that, with bringing games to America. Like, you know, that's why we don't see many of them on the Xbox, is because it's such a pain in the ass to try to get them to want to put their games on your system, you know, for Xbox, and unfortunately it sucks, you know, because that's just more reason for people to say, oh, why should I get an Xbox? But, you know, like when you don't have control over what they're gonna want to bring to your system, it's maddening, and you know, and it's like I don't know. I just don't understand when these companies do this kind of stuff, because, like, you want people to play your game. Like, I thought that was the whole point of making a game, is you want a lot of people to play it. And
some people don't believe that when it comes to business. They put business over creativity.
Yeah, and I think that's the underlying issue here is they need to have, like, either someone else taking control of what, you know, how they run things or something, because, you know, it's ridiculous, because like you hear all the time about these amazing games that are coming out in Japan and then they never come here. So
exactly,
it's a bummer.
Well, everybody, before we get to the end of the show, I'm going to present kind of a new segment, and I know Korsha's like, what? When you hear this, he's like, what are you talking about? This segment is called Around the Block, and this is mostly for you guys as the listeners. And I put Nintendo games versus others. And what Around the Block is about is take one Nintendo game and make it go against another game. And what I would like for you to do is give each game 3 pros and 3 cons. And if you can email us at nintendopowerblock@gmail.com, and you can put Around the Block. And we would like to hear what you guys think. You know, what Nintendo game versus another game, and it could be on any platform, that they both have good pros, but they both have a lot of cons to them. 3 each, 3 pros, 3 cons for each game. And we kind of want to see what you guys think. And there's not going to be a particular winner, but it's going to create I think it will create a good conversation to see what people think of comparison of games. You could do The Legend of Zelda 2 versus Dark Souls. Put three pros for each game, three cons for each game. And like I said, you could email us at Nintendo Power Block, to put the subject matter around the block, and let us know. I really want to hear and really want to see what you guys can create. And hopefully, we could read it on the show and have a good discussion about it to be like, yeah, I can see those pros and I can see those cons. And it's, like I said, it's not to say that either game is both good and both bad or one is better than the other. It's just good to see how you would compare these games. A Nintendo game versus other games on other platforms and stuff. But Jesse, where can we find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Phantom Maggot AX, and that's it.
You guys can find me on Twitter at That Retro Code, and you can check out my podcast, Optional Opinion, on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play. You can email the show at NintendoPowerBlock@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Nintendo Power Block. Check us out on Twitter. I think it's Nintendo Power Block. Or I think it's at Power Block at Twitter. I will get that information for you guys later. Or Corey might post it in the YouTube page when you guys hear this. But once again, thank you guys for checking out Nintendo Power Block. If you guys follow Corey at Corey in HD on Twitter, send them some love. If you follow us on Nerds Gone Rogue on Facebook, congratulate Corey and Sana on their first newborn. You guys can also check us out. We have the Nindy Showcase. We have Pod and Play Season 1 and Season 2. We got Squad Goals. We got Nerds Gone Platinum, Nerds Gone Rogue, B-Sides, and a whole bunch of other content on our YouTube page at Nerds Gone Rogue. And you can even read more content of our works at ngrradio.com. I announced on Optional Opinion that the beauty of video games is coming to Nerds Gone Rogue, and that will be in September. And what that is that it's an optional opinion feature where I talk about the beauty of video games. I take a theme and just really kind of be very positive. There is one for each 3 weeks, because it's a 3-week project. There is one negative about it, but that's kind of the beauty of it. Sometimes you need negative stuff to be able to showcase what you did wrong to bring out something better. So once again, thank you everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on Nintendo Power Block. Bye everybody. Woo-hoo!
Bye.